It's not complicated.
For this screening of Divided We Fall. I'm Rabbi Nancy Kasten, Chief Relationship Officer for Faith Commons. I'm joined today by the President of Faith Commons, Pastor George Mason, and Cameron Vickery, who is our Director of PR and Communications. And of course, we are really delighted to have as a conversation partner before we screen our film today, Rabbi Charlie Cytron-Walker. And we just want to make sure that you all know about Faith Commons, first of all. We are a multi-faith organization located in Dallas, and our goal really is to help people bring their faith convictions and faith voices into the public square for the common good in legal and realistic ways, in ways that build community and build beloved community in particular. And it's been out of that desire that we have become engaged with the work of Valarie Kaur, a Sikh American activist, lawyer, documentary filmmaker, who got her start with the film that we're going to see today about 20 years ago, making this film after 9/11. And at the time, she was processing her experience as a Sikh American in the aftermath of 9/11, seeing herself and members of her community being targeted by those who did not understand their religion and who made very dangerous assumptions, which resulted in a lot of hate crime, and that still persists to this day. Of course, we know that because we saw that happen playing itself out right here in Colleyville just 3 weeks ago. And so to begin with, before we screen the film, I wanted to take this opportunity to hear from Rabbi Cytron-Walker, because although much of what has been, what he's been asked to talk about since that incident and since he came through it with such bravery and with keeping his wits about him, we've really heard most of the media focus on how to protect ourselves against the threat, and not all that much about the role of creating more religious understanding and religious tolerance. And so today, Charlie, Rabbi Cytron-Walker, we are old friends. I would love to hear from you about how you see the job of fostering religious tolerance. Whose job is that? And what are our best strategies to defend the Jewish community and other religious communities from hate crimes?
Well, Rabbi Kasten, Nancy, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And it's really a wonderful opportunity to be here with all of y'all today. When it comes to whose responsibility is it? It's everybody's responsibility when it comes to that sense of religious understanding. When it comes to that idea that we all have something to bring to this world, and what we are trying to bring is not the tearing down of other people, right? That's a deep understanding. And so if it helps us, right, for me to understand and bring a sense of knowledge about Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, and others, right? There's so many different religious traditions that are out there. If I just remember.
Change your pants real quick.
Okay.
Can we all mute, please?
It's all right. I would just say that the idea is that when it comes to religious tolerance, it doesn't start when things go wrong. It starts when things are going right. But it's something that we need to bring all the time right? I remember we had an opportunity to bring the Muslim community when we were starting to really develop relationships with Muslim community in our area. We brought them for Passover. And I made matzo ball soup well, I didn't make all the matzo balls. I did make the soup for about 100 people, right? In our small congregation, and we talked about Passover. We sat at tables. We had a chance to learn and eat together and talk with one another and develop relationships. And when it was, we didn't realize, or I didn't realize, that it was time for prayer. It was the Muslim time for prayer. And so we were asked, is it okay if we pray? And the idea of, is it okay? Of course it's okay to pray. So we moved the tables out of the way. Our sanctuary is also our social hall. And Muslims and Jews started taking pictures. And I was like, what are y'all doing? Haven't you seen people pray before? The idea of Muslims praying in a synagogue, that was something, and again, I didn't even realize it at the time. I mean, that's why I love Iftar, because Iftar is an opportunity to celebrate and to learn. And those are just small examples of how, in the best of times, we all need to do our part to share with one another. And that starts with curiosity. That starts with a willingness to go, and that starts with a willingness to participate and say, yeah, this other religion is doing this thing. It's important, right? Those relationships matter. Those relationships developed in our Northeast Tarrant area, right, with our Peace Together partnerships and so many other opportunities where the relationships are strong because we didn't wait for bad things to happen. We made sure that we had the relationships to begin with.
It strikes me, I was thinking that, when this was all unfolding in Colleyville and the perpetrator of the violence, the terrorist, kept referring to Dr. Siddiqui as his sister, I wondered how many non-Muslims were aware that that term for Muslims doesn't mean a biological sister, that the familial terms are used to refer to members of the community at large.
I wasn't sure the way that he was talking about her. I wasn't sure which way he meant. It didn't become clear to me until later in the day, because it could have gone either way.
And in the meantime, her actual biological brother was being targeted because people thought that he was the terrorist. And again, this is just to point to how important it is for us to learn to understand each other. And while people like the FBI and the Anti-Defamation League and the Senate hearings are focused on security tactics, physical security tactics, we at Faith Commons really are joining forces with lots of other groups in our area to build our muscle and build our capacity to understand each other, to know each other, to see each other as part of ourselves that we don't yet know, which is Valarie Kaur's tagline for her book. And I just also, before we start the film, for those of you who don't know, Faith Commons and about 27 other partners had collaborated to bring Ms. Kaur here, and she was supposed to be here in Dallas last week. All kinds of forces conspired against that, and fortunately we decided to cancel and postpone till the fall. before the last minute when we would have had to postpone anyway. But in the meantime, Faith Commons has been hosting weekly workshops on all of the kinds of practices that Ms. Kaur's Revolutionary Love Project has developed for strengthening our muscles, for practicing our ability to be curious about one another, to share our emotions and our feelings with one another, and to really invest in one another's lives in ways that are meaningful and can have true impact. And as we watch this film and think about the fact that, you know, it was made in 2008 and that, 9/11 happened in 2001, I think it's really incumbent on us to think about the fact that the forces, legislation and policies can only do so much. Once again, there is something for each of us to do besides going to a training where we learn what to do if a terrorist comes into our house of worship. What do we do when we have the opportunity to meet one another, and how do we seek those opportunities out so that we can build the community that we really want to see and make it safer for all of us?
Well, and Nancy, I would just add that I do see the value of the security training. I think that's important. And as far as I'm concerned, those are things that we should go through together with like other faith communities. We invited, as a part of our security training, we invited other religious communities in. The first time I attended a training with the FBI, it was with multiple faiths, people from all different backgrounds. And the idea of going through those moments with people from other traditions, I believe it really offers a level of empathy where we can place ourselves in each other's shoes and imagine the worst for ourselves and for others. And that brings a sense of humanity in a really important way. And at the same time, that sense of curiosity, that sense of love that we need to extend, that sense of understanding is really, really important. I think it's also honest to say that we don't have to become experts. I'm still going to make mistakes. I'm not going to know everything about Islam and Christianity and the Baha'i tradition and, right? There's a lot of religions that are out there. We don't have to become experts. But that notion of curiosity, that level of understanding that even though I don't know everything, and even though I might make mistakes, I can still learn, I can still experience, I can still be with you for a moment and celebrate with you, and when we need to, mourn with you, right? Because we are all connected. And while we have different notions of how we connect to the divine, that sense of relationship, that sense of unity in humanity, we need a lot more of that. We need a lot more of that.
Well, I think we saw a beautiful example outside your congregation during the terrible standoff that was occurring, because people did come together. And Rabbi Andrew Paley, who had become a police chaplain in the wake of the shootings of the police officers, was there. And Imam Omar Solomon and other Muslim leaders were present. And Pastor Bob Roberts from the Baptist Church in Keller was there. Lots of people in solidarity saying, we really want to stand with you and see if we can diffuse this situation. But more than that, it was an example of relationships that already existed, that were able to galvanize in the moment and create an alternative narrative to what was happening inside the congregation, right, Charlie?
It was when I obviously didn't know what was going on at the time.
Right.
However, that piece that piece of hearing about how so many people came to show support and to show love, it meant a great deal, right? It's very hard, right? I experienced what I experienced, and I can only imagine what my family was experiencing, right? And we've talked about it. That's a horrible situation to be in. And yet that idea that the community came, people that we knew, people that we did have relationships with, from so many different backgrounds, that were there to show support, and so many people that we didn't know. Like, I mean, Pastor Bob Roberts and I have had a couple of conversations, right? And he's been an incredible interfaith leader on so many different levels. Imam Omar Suleiman, I'd never met before, but I'd met a number of his colleagues, right? And those relationships are at the core of the general communal relationships that I've tried to build, right? With other faiths, from the mayor. Oh my gosh, the mayor was appalled, right? And embarrassed that that it happened in Colleyville. And he's somebody that I had known. He was the one who pulled together the ministerial alliance that gave me relationships with other faith leaders that I hadn't met before, with city leaders and others, right? That's where, like, the mission of Faith Commons and this idea of bringing the sense of love to one another, right, is important within the faith community and beyond, right? It is the partnerships with the government. It is the partnerships and the education that needs to happen, right, with the police, so that all of us, because all of us, we need to see each other's humanity, and we need to feel a sense of safety. And the stronger those relationships are across our communities, and I'm not even going to say across difference, because there's so much more that unites us, right? Across and throughout our communities at every level, it really makes a difference. It really makes a difference. And George, thank you for pointing that out.
Well, we're about to start the film. It's really wonderful to see so many of you who've joined us. I'm just going to ask Cameron if you wouldn't mind showing the screen again with our plans for continuing the work of Revolutionary Love after today. And also, if you want any more information, you can find it on our website, www.faithcommons.org. And you can always reach me to ask any questions. And I just want to say, on behalf of Faith Commons and our whole community, Rabbi Cytron-Walker, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your willingness to spend time having these conversations in the interest of making it less likely that these events will happen, and also making it more likely that when they do, and unfortunately they do, that we do come together and show our sense of love and support for one another, and our ability to walk each other through these difficult situations.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.